Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Mashpee Men's Club on this beautiful Cape Cod morning. And we begin each meeting with the salute to the flag. And today, we're going to be led by Pete Jackson.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
This day is going to be a good speaker. Brian is here. Brian is over here, and I'll introduce him. He has just recently as January of this year, became the town planner. And so therefore, he has been busy. He's very proud of the fact that he's moved a number of projects along that we have read about and watched to see why they are not completed. Why do we have to continue talking about a little condo development over in Willow Bend? Why do we have to continue waiting for Island Pickle thing to be finalized and closed and so forth? And then, as well, we're also, for the first time that I can think of in my experience in Mashpee, we're going to have a chain restaurant near the Commons. And Brian's been in the middle of all of those. And all you got to do is read your Mashpee Enterprise these days, and you're going to see the planning department may not be involved in it completely, but they will be dealing with a lot of the changes coming to the town. There's a lot of action going on, which as far as I'm concerned, I think we need some of that. We also need it for our tax base, which I like to see increase significantly and so forth. So I think Brian's got his hands full. The guy comes prepared. He is well-educated, got a master's degree, his law degree, and has been working in the field of planning with his legal background, which is so critical to make sure that you get projects moved from conception all the way through to reality. So Brian, come on up and tell us some stuff.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you so much. That was a fantastic introduction. I think I should take a few tips in public speaking from Brad. If it's all right with you guys, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to try and do this without this mic, if that's okay. Can everybody hear me okay? Can you hear me in the back okay? Great. All right, so I'm just going to grab a seat. I'm going to be a little less formal. I'll give you a bit more about my personal background and then a bit more about what projects we've covered so far since I've started at Mashpee. And then I'm going to chat with you a little bit about both pending projects as well as upcoming projects. I intend to be brief with my speaking portion because I imagine everybody's here because they have a lot of questions about what's going on in town, and I'd rather focus in on what's important to you all. All right, so as Brad had mentioned, I have a background in law. It's primarily a focus on land use law, which involves planning, zoning, building, Board of Health, Concom, you name it. It focuses primarily on real estate development and all the permitting process that you need to go through that. It's also in municipal law. So I began my career as the first assistant town council for the town of Needham. I was there for approximately 5 years. I served in private practice for an additional 7 years, working mostly for construction companies and real estate developers. I did approximately 2 years at the town of Falmouth as the assistant town council, focusing on the land use law, working with the ZBA and the planning department, and now I'm here in planning. Planning has a highly regulatory framework, for me, I thought it was a very smooth transition, plus it's a chance to actually work on the creation of the projects as opposed to fighting over them on the back end, and it's a chance to really troubleshoot problems before they go to litigation and hopefully help them to avoid going to litigation in general. Yep, having trouble hearing me? Yeah. Okay. All right, that's okay. That was just about me, so it wasn't important anyway. We'll talk about some of the projects that I've worked on since I've come to Mashpee. Is this better?
Yes.
Great. All right. So as Brad mentioned, one of the first approvals that I worked on was the approval of Island Pickle. I'm very excited about that project. It's at 51 Evergreen Circle. It's the largest commercial real estate building in the Upper Cape. It's an indoor recreation facility with 10 pickleball courts. It has an indoor restaurant, golf simulators, as well as an outdoor patio for a chance for outdoor entertainment and dining when the weather's nice. That has already been approved for its special permit, and the construction is underway. And I think they're looking to do either a soft or a hard opening in November. So they're moving along, and that'll be great. Also, as Brad mentioned, we were able to get the Willow Bend litigation settled. That was a court case that was dealing with the 275 Quiniquisette Avenue. So it was in front of the planning board, and it got appealed to the planning board's decision got appealed to the land court. It got negotiated down to 12 units on approximately, I believe it was 4.5 acres. They still have to go through various other approvals, like Conservation Commission, et cetera. But at least from a planning standpoint, that matter's been settled. So that was good. We got the new ADU bylaw approved. I'm not sure if any of you were at town meeting or watched this past town meeting, but we made adjustments to our accessory apartment bylaw. That bylaw needed to be adjusted because of the Affordable Homes Act, which was passed and which allowed for ADUs to be built as of right in single-family zoning districts. So we basically tweaked our present accessory apartment bylaw to make it instead the accessory dwelling unit bylaw to be in line with that new state statute. We also got approval for the continuation of the Barnstable County Shared Regional Housing Services Program. That's a program that we were involved in for 1 to 2 years. It was originally funded by federal funding. It's an opportunity for planners as well as folks in the affordable housing community throughout Barnstable County to meet on a regular basis as a forum to discuss ideas, discuss projects, and share knowledge, as well as to tap into like the expertise of certain, in this case, or historically it's been Barrett Consulting, but to tap into consulting expertise. Barrett Consulting in particular, but with the focus on affordable housing, and they're very well known in the state for their work in affordable housing. And that actually leads to the next agenda item, which is they were instrumental in assisting us in getting approval for our housing production plan, which was a planning department initiative. It was, again, an ongoing project. It's important to have that because it allows the town to qualify for a number of safe harbor provisions that it otherwise would not be eligible for in the event 40B projects come in, 40B being the state statute for affordable housing. In the wake of all of that, I was appointed to the Barnstable County Home Consortium Advisory Council, which is a similar concept, except it also adds in the component that the council will approve funding for various affordable projects throughout the Cape. Oh, another good thing that's similar to that as well is the LeClaire Village project, which was already approved before I started. The units for that had not yet been counted to what's called the SHI, or the Subsidized Housing Inventory. That's what allows us to count our affordable housing units to get towards the goal of reaching 10%, which is one of the safe harbors a town can be eligible for. So those weren't yet on the SHI. We submitted them to the state. We got them approved on the SHI, and that bumped us up to 5.19% of our affordable or of our housing stock is now earmarked for as restricted permanently as affordable housing. So what that means is we're now 50% of the way towards the goal, or more than 50% of the way towards the goal. We had a number of HDC approvals. So HDC is the Historic District Commission. That also falls under the planning department. A couple of them were pump stations for the wastewater project that's going on, but there was also recently approval right at the end of Main Street for the market there. They're doing an extension of the building to put in a refrigerator. And then, as Brad also mentioned, the 11 Commercial Street approval, which the chain restaurant there is Chipotle. Which I think is location appropriate. I know a lot of folks are very supportive of locally owned businesses, and especially in the Cape Cod, which has a unique character and feel. I myself am as well. I do think for that particular location, though, the Chipotle was appropriate. The history is that special permit was approved years ago for the shopping center as a whole. That building was originally earmarked to be a multi-tenant building at 10,000 square feet. It was then modified to be a two-tenant building at slightly under 5,000 square feet. One of the tenants being, or proposed tenants, was going to be Sherwin-Williams, the paint shop. For whatever reason, that did not come to fruition, and so then this recent modification downsized it again to a one-tenant building at approximately 2,500 square feet. So that'll be built where the pumpkin patch is, right by where the pumpkin patch is. So a few examples of current pending projects. We have a medium to large scale solar project that's going in it's going through the approval process now at 868 Falmouth Road. That's where Mashpee Sun Storage is. So they're looking to put solar panels up above where some of the areas are in the storage in the back. It's kind of a try. There's three levels of approval, I would say, associated with that project. The first that they've already gone through is with their plan review committee, which is a committee that doesn't hold public hearings or public meetings. It consists of a number of town officials, and since they're in the Industrial 1 zoning district, that's their first step and would be their only step but for the history of that particular parcel. They also, because they're under a special permit, need to get approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals. And then lastly, because that particular project is seeking waivers from the dimensional requirements in our zoning code, it also needs to go before the planning board. So they're 1/3 of the way through it, but they also have to, we've opened up the public meetings with the planning board, and then they will simultaneously, or they're starting to open up the meetings with the ZBA. So they'll be going through the planning board and the ZBA simultaneously. We have, which I'm sure has been much talked about in the past, although it's probably now hiding in the shadows of everything going on at 0 Gunter's Lane. We have 9 Shellback Way, which is the specialty grocery store off of Route 28. We opened up the planning board public hearing process for it, but then because it's a commercial building in excess of 10,000 square feet, it got sent automatically to the Cape Cod Commission, which is where they're undergoing what's called DRI review, because it's what's called what DRI stands for, what it's referred to as is a development of regional impact. So they're being reviewed by the Cape Cod Commission now. Then if they pass that review process, they'll come back to the planning board and they'll be seeking a special permit from us. As I'm sure many of you have also heard about, we recently wrapped the On Commons project eligibility letter process. That's a new 40B project that's near Mashpee Commons. It's not to be confused with the already approved Mashpee Commons 40B project. I know there's quite a bit of chatter about that because right around the same time we started reviewing the project eligibility letter for that 40B project, Mashpee Commons started clearing some lots for what was already approved. They're building on 2 campuses, again, were already approved on either side of Market Street, one of which, and this is the source of the confusion, is a parcel that is directly adjacent to and actually abuts this other proposed project. Thing to keep in mind about 40B projects, and I'm happy to share whatever knowledge I have, and both in general as well as with these particular projects, but they ultimately go before the Zoning Board of Appeals. So they're not really a planning department topic. With the project eligibility letter phase of a 40B, often planning departments assist in collecting comments from multiple town officials and boards. The reason we do that is because it's effectively to assist and support the town manager's office and the select board. So the project eligibility letter process is ultimately select board purview, but they often rely on the planning department to help coordinate that. Then what happens is after a project gets approval, they would then apply for what's called a comprehensive permit, and they would do that with the Zoning Board of Appeals. So they are still in the project eligibility letter phase, and they have not yet actually applied for a 40B. Another thing that I'm proud of that we're working on now is what we've labeled the PENS working group. So PENS stands for pre-existing non-conforming structures. Some of you may know this as Poppy's Raise and Replace, but it's all about how do we deal with buildings or structures that do not presently comply with our code, but may have complied in the past. And so we put together a great working group, a great subcommittee, if you will, of folks who are really passionate about that topic, really interested in it. Some folks who are from the New Seabury area, some folks from Pompanesett, and some folks who are involved in the Conservation Commission and have that knowledge, as well as some builders who are just really knowledgeable about dealing with things like FEMA and these kinds of codes in multiple towns. So it'll be great to see how that shapes up. We've already had 2 really productive meetings, and we hope to open it up and eventually have a nice kind of like meet and greet with the public and get some public feedback on some ideas and concepts that we're discussing, but it's going well. Just 2 other things I'll touch upon, and then I'll open it up to, or I'll do a general conclusion and I'll open up to some questions. One is a project that folks probably have not yet heard about because they're in the pre-application phase. We're just kind of compiling their application materials, but this is going to be at 524 Great Neck Road North. That's where the Verizon building is. They're looking at putting in a cell tower there. So you guys are the first to hear about it in a public forum. It's pre-application phase. Once the application is complete, they too will also, after we open up the public hearing, they'll go to the Cape Cod Commission as well for DRI review because of the size of the cell tower. And then lastly, we have a host of proposed warrant articles that are on for this fall town meeting. I'll just name a few of them. One addresses dealing with access for lots that are located in multiple zoning districts. For folks who are in the industry, we call those split zone lots. Another is an amendment to our solar energy systems bylaw. Another, which was initiated by the planning department, is the acceptance of the bike path easement. We already own this easement, but there's a 99-year time limit on it that in order to extend that and have it go in perpetuity, the town actually has to vote to adopt the easement at a town meeting. It's kind of a uniquely worded easement. We're 35 years into that easement, so it's still ours for another 65 years, but I figured since we saw that in the easement, we might as well vote on it now and just kind of take care of it. And then there's an amendment that involves the planning department because it will amend our zoning code, and by state statute, all amendments to the zoning code have to go through the planning department, but it is ultimately a DPW-initiated amendment, so when you hear from Catherine at the next meeting, she can probably answer a lot of the technical questions better than myself, but it deals with stormwater management, and it ensures that the town will be compliant with our federal permit along those lines. So anyway, that's kind of a sum of the projects that I've worked on since I started, as well as projects that are either pending or upcoming. If there's anything I've left off, I'm happy to answer whatever questions I can on that, and I'm also happy to answer any questions about those. First question.
In reference to your comment about the chain coming in, the chain food place, your Pulte,
Yep.
does that kind of open the door for future chain food places coming in?
I don't think it's necessarily going to open floodgates per se. I mean, the thing to keep in mind is in the world of planning, only so much of it actually is planning. A lot of times we're catching more than we're pitching because folks own private property. And as long as they're compliant with our bylaws, they can build, accordingly. I think part of it isn't necessarily a regulatory framework. Part of it is kind of a social context framework. Like that's one of the things that I think is great about what Mashpee Commons does is I think it's something like 85% of their rental units are to locally owned mom and pop shops. So I think that's fantastic. I mean, I'm from Massachusetts. I grew up coming to the Cape in the summertime, and I am a huge advocate of preserving to the extent possible the unique character of Cape Cod. And part of what makes Cape unique is local businesses. So I don't think local businesses will get completely squashed. I certainly hope that won't be the case. But I think appropriate chains in appropriate locations also just kind of reflects the times of where we are in the Cape, which is we're seeing more and more people living here year round. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Great. Yes, sir.
At the beginning of your talk, you mentioned this recreation center.
Yep.
Could you, expand on that a little bit? What are they going to, how is this, in other words, is it being built now, and what's going to be there?
Sure.
This is gonna be a town-owned facility?
Oh, no, I'm glad you asked. Yeah, so to
You're
clarify.
talking very fast, so the details just kind of.
I was talking fast, mostly because I wanted to give you guys plenty of time for questions, and we have been doing quite a bit. But I appreciate that. Yeah, let me slow down on that one. It's called Island Pickle. So it is a private recreational facility that you can join like any other club. Its primary focus is on the sport of pickleball, which is a kind of new sport that a lot of folks in the Cape Cod have heard about. Apparently, it originally started on the West Coast in the state of Washington. And here's a little fun fact. I'm not sure if it's true, but I heard speculations or rumors that the reason why it's called pickleball is actually a reference to crew and rowing, where you would have a pickle team, and the pickle team was just kind of a makeshift composite of a bunch of different teams. And pickleball, too, draws on all these different sports that involve a ball and a net. So it's like a little bit of tennis, a little bit of ping pong, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So,
Associated with a dog.
oh yeah, I heard that too. But apparently the family said no. We named the dog after the sport, not the other way around. So yeah.
So where's this gonna be built?
So it'll be at 51 Evergreen Circle, which is in the industrial zoned area. You know that little cul-de-sac where Cape Cod Coffee is, kind of right at the beginning.
Yep, off of 130.
Yeah, off of 130. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, 130.
Yeah, there's a fairly new cul-de-sac there with, I think it's about 8 lots or so, and it's the lot all the way at the end of the cul-de-sac on the north, I guess that would be northwest corner. So
Pickleball is usually played outdoors.
it is, but that's kind of the idea, is
Is this
that
gonna be an indoor facility?
it will be indoor. Yeah, they're gonna
I
have,
wanna make it indoor so it's year-round.
yep, year-round, and then I think it also helps solve the noise problem. I mean, that's one of the biggest issues with, one of the biggest issues with pickleball in Cape Cod has been neighbors.
door to the pot store.
In
Yeah.
Texas, where the weather is terrible, they have a lot of indoor pickleball. And it's actually played with a different ball.
Oh, really?
And the outdoor ball, they say, is bounces a little higher than the inside ball, which I whiffed twice.
Noisy.
Well, in Texas, you have to play indoors in the summertime because it's so
Yeah.
hot.
Well, the winter's no better.
Do you know what the incremental revenue, tax revenue will be coming in from the latest development over at Mashpee Commons that they're working on right now?
No, that's a good question. I can look into that if you want to give me your card after the meeting, and I'll shoot you an email. I'm sure we have some sort of estimates, but yeah.
So I'm really interested in the incremental costs. Like, who looks at, for this expansion, the additional tax on the schools and the police and the fire and the highway and the dump and everything else in town?
Yeah.
Who does that work? And
So since that was a comprehensive permit, that would have been before the ZBA, and that is among the things that they look at, and that's why there's often mitigation efforts associated with comprehensive permits. So whenever it's shown that there's going to be a heavy burden on town infrastructure, developers are often called upon to help mitigate that, and that can be anything from traffic to sewer to police and fire. So
do you think there is a number? For every dollar in tax revenue coming from this expansion, there's this dollar or less in cost to the town?
Well,
That does exist?
yeah, I mean, I think, well, oh yeah, certainly. I mean, experts do estimates, but like any estimates, that's exactly what they are.
Have to be an estimate.
Yeah, I mean, and
Where do we get that?
well, you can check with the ZBA to see what was.
ZBA?
Yeah, the Zoning Board of Appeals. The original comprehensive permit was issued, I think, in like 2007, and then it had been modified multiple times over the years. And I know it was modified in 2017, and then I believe again in 2022. So it depends on what component of the project you're looking at. But that is something that's often considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals during the comprehensive permit phasing. They're supposed to look at everything from a holistic standpoint.
So
So,
what is this is at the Mashpee Commons?
yes, sir.
There's a big project going on there, huh?
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about.
yeah. They are in the phase now where I think they're putting in an additional 120 residential units.
Oh, this is residential, not additional retail.
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
but
So they're
it'll-
building a big apartment complex?
Several buildings on 2 campuses. I believe they're all 3-story buildings. There may be some 4-story, but the first phase of this phase is 54 units, and I believe that's on the East Campus.
How many
So
units?
54.
Apartments or condos?
I believe they're apartments. Yeah, they're rentals. There's going to be a total of a little over 120 rentals.
Wow.
Yeah,
So that's interesting, rentals going up, not condos.
for this phase, correct? Yeah, yeah. And they're going to be. There will be 25%, I believe, are earmarked as affordable,
Okay.
and that's going to be on kind of the back side of the shopping center by Job's Fishing Road, where those empty lots are now. So yeah, on either side of Market Street. But yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, speaking of affordable housing, I said that the goal is to have 10% of our housing units be affordable housing units, right?
Yeah, that's set by state statute.
What's the timeline on that?
Well, I mean, I think the way it works with most HPPs is you set an aggressive timeline knowing you're not going to meet it. So every time you pass an HPP, your goal technically in the HPP is to reach 10% in 5 years. Most towns don't do that. So that's the goal. If you're asking me realistically, 10, 15 years is probably a lot more realistic. The thing to keep in mind is, to a certain extent, because whenever the numerator expands, the denominator also expands. There's a little bit of a chasing your tail component to it, where you're increasing your overall housing stock. Therefore, your percentage, even though it increases, it slightly decreases because you have more stock in general.
Brian,
So, yep.
how many towns in Massachusetts qualify with the 10%? Do any?
Ooh, that's a great question. There is a list. No, definitely several do. But I mean, Massachusetts has over 300 towns. And I think the number is, candidly, a staggering small percentage of that. I don't know it off the top of my head, but, I mean,
There aren't many.
it probably hovers around 50, I think. I think there's about 50 towns that have met that 10% already. Yep.
With all the ongoing talk about affordable housing, which not only in our town, but throughout the whole Cape, does Mashpee have any homeless prevention programs, the town itself?
Yeah, so I think Human Services runs that, so they'd be able to better comment on that. But I think that's a great question, because I think the planning department, can definitely look into better ways to coordinate with Human Services. Because, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're worried about affordable housing, that's another thing that you should be worried about as well. It's an important issue.
When I read about you in the enterprise background there, you were interested in homelessness, it said.
Yeah, ending homelessness. I would have added the word ending into it, yeah. No, we're the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. Like, no other nation in the world's history has come anywhere close to us. I mean, just between technology and everything else that we have, I could go off on a soapbox, but it's shameful that people are living without roofs over their head. It's shameful, so. Yes, sir.
I read where they're building 4-story buildings over in Mashpee Commons.
Yep.
Is there a height restriction on
So
like that?
all of Mashpee has a height restriction for residential units. It's 35 feet, with the exception of when you're in Pompanesett, where it's 30 feet. The thing about 40B, though, is that they can bypass that. So 40B, the way it's structured is technically they have to comply with all local rules unless they seek a waiver. If they seek a waiver, more often than not, it has to be granted. If it isn't granted, they can always appeal to what's called the Housing Appeals Committee, which is run by the state. It's an administrative agency and an adjudicatory body at the administrative level. It's a part of the EOHLC, which is the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. More often than not, HAC, which is Housing Appeals Committee, not the local Cape Cod Housing Authority, HAC will back up a developer. There's a whole legal test that they do where it says, does this restriction make the project more economic? And they do a balancing test between the town's need for affordable housing versus other local needs. more often than not, unless you're dealing with a legitimate, verifiable public health and safety issue, you know, it's those decisions are going to fall in the favor of the developer. Now, towns can then appeal to typically Superior Court. After that, you know, a Superior Court action is an appeal, will take anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half. But again, Superior Court will more often than not look to the HAC as the specialized agency and just kind of side with them. So, yeah.
You said there was a height restriction on residential.
Yep.
How about commercial?
I think the 35 feet actually applies across the board. I think 35 feet, yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Hey, one other question, on Route 130, the hotel's been sitting empty, I think it's for Plaza del Sol for many years. I remember way back during COVID, that was supposed to be emergency money was given to help homeless members of the Wampanoag tribe. That place been sitting empty for almost 4 years, it's crazy.
Yeah.
What is being done?
No,
Why is it
that's
empty?
that's a great question.
I mean, I know the federal money was already given to them.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it to comment on it. I'm happy to chat with you more about it offline, but that's an excellent question.
Waste for a resource, my God.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I'm a lifelong swimmer and I swim regularly in Mashpee Pond. And in recent years, it's been closed because of algae. And in my understanding, the algae problem is exacerbated by sewers, in other words, home sewers. They are, the town presumably is creating town sewers to alleviate that problem. Obviously, I don't want to see Mashpee Pond closed. So, I'm pulling for this, you know, for that sewer project to clean that mess up.
Sure.
How is it progressing? In other words, you know, are they gonna be, you know, cleaning up the sewers around Mashpee Pond? I mean, what's going on?
Sure. No, excellent question. I'll start with a first minor semantics technical comment just for clarity with everybody. There's septic and then there's sewer. Septic is what you see on your individual homes with single families, you know, typically in the single family model. And that tends to contribute more both nitrogen and phosphorus into our water bodies and watersheds. And that is what causes a lot of these problems. I mean, everything from the bacteria in our freshwater ponds to even erosion of our coasts, you know. So sewer is a solution to that because what happens is sewer tends to dilute the effluent to a greater extent than individual septic systems because it's doing it on the aggregate. The sewer project, my understanding now, is going to begin construction of phase 1 this fall, but it's phased out into 3 phases, and it's going to be, you know, a multi-year project. Planning is indirectly involved in that. I mean, I do have conversations with the wastewater department on a fairly regular basis. However, you know, I kind of try to respect the relative lanes there. That project is a wastewater department project. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but you're looking at...
Bottom line is, it's probably gonna be maybe 5, 6, 7 years before, in other words, Mashpee Pond is gonna be cleaned up from this sewer project.
Yeah, I think the areas around...
It'll be a long time, so
Yeah, I think the areas around Mashpee Pond, Mashpee Wakeby Pond are in phase 2, if I'm recalling correctly, and so that, yeah, that'll be a few years, and I know there's there's presently an issue. There's presently an issue about a little wastewater treatment plant and whether or not it's going to go in its current location. So that's something that everybody will have to iron out.
Brian, phase 1 is actually underway.
Yeah.
We're connecting now. And before, I think, and Al's here, he can probably answer it better. I think before we would see anything in the ponds or for the nitrogen and phosphorus take effect of what we're doing, you're probably talking at least 10 years before we see any noticeable effect. Al can probably comment better on that, though.
Yeah, we're putting in a mini plant. We're designing a mini plant right now that would be taking both phosphorus as well as nitrogen out of the ponds. And they're also looking at using alum, which would stop the phosphorus, like, it's kind of like shocking a pool.
So actually, you're treating the pond itself?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, as opposed to trying to, in other words.
Well, we're doing both, because if you don't, you're gonna, the alum's not gonna work.
Okay, so you're basically working on the sewer system as well
Yes.
as treating the
Yeah.
pond water.
And you'll have the opportunity to vote on that at the meeting.
Nice.
Vote positive.
Al, when is the phase one gonna be turned on? I thought-
Phase one, everything has been approved. I believe it was turned on yesterday.
Okay, I thought it was
We
July.
were starting the plant. We've run clear water through it,
Mhm.
but we're gonna actually start running sewage through it, I believe, on Monday.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, apologies if I was mistaken there. So all of the pipe has been laid for phase one?
Phase one.
It's been, most of it's been laid. There's enough laid so I now can turn on the plant. You have to have
Right.
a minimum flow.
Sure.
And we've got the minimum flow, so we're turning it on. And as other people come online, you have like 6 months to make your connection, so we'll be getting it more and more.
Sure. So then, then a slight correction to what I said. I think this fall is when they'll be having people connect. Yeah, I may have said starting construction, so yeah.
Get
Progress
phase
is
two
being
started.
made.
Al, is there much oversight on that from, say, the state and the feds? And you have to do reporting to them and send statements off to them and test
When
reports
it
and
comes
whatnot?
to oversight, we're all set.
My sewer line's actually being dug today.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So,
Nice. That's exciting.
there's several houses on my street that are,
Do you live near Mashpee Pond?
no, I live in Quiniquisette, which is phase one.
That's stage one, that's phase one.
So they're,
Back in.
Awesome. Yes, sir.
You mentioned Chipotle somebody has a rather jaundiced view towards chain restaurants. What made that particularly good in your mind for that location?
Oh, well, that was actually, I mean, it was developer initiated, you know. I mean, I think I agreed with it as an appropriate location because in that South Cape Village Shopping Center, there are a number of other chains, some of which are local, some of which are national. I mean, you have the Marshalls there, you have a Roach Brothers there. When you walk around South Cape, it's not as if it's interrupting a quintessential Cape Cod feel, right? Like you're not walking in an area with Sam's Clam Shack or something like that, you know, where all the buildings are cedar shingled and, you know, it's right on the beach. It's a much more of a commercial center feel to it. So I didn't think that, you know, and the developer also did take some steps to make the designs, you know, somewhat of a Cape Cod feel, you know, within that commercial context. But, you know, obviously it's not gonna, it's not gonna be, you know, it's not gonna be the same as going to like, you know, a small shop on, you know, in a cedar shingled building on the seashore and sitting down and having fried clams. Like that's not, but that's also not what that location is. So it's, you know, it's developer initiated. Sure, no
A
problem.
restaurant like that.
Yep.
There's X number of seats, get approval from the ZBA. How about the number of parking spots immediately adjacent to the building?
Sure.
Is that ratio to chairs in the restaurant to the number of cars, and therefore,
Yep.
you know, will there, it just seems to be
It's a zoning
that,
question.
that there's not a lot of parking space in that particular shopping
Sure.
center, as it is.
Sure.
So now all of a sudden you bring in a lot of people who come in there, stick around for an hour, hour and a half to have their meal, you're gonna be, really put the pressure on the parking area.
Sure, sure. So the zoning code does set a parking ratio. And that special permit is under the planning board. And the original special permit, which I think goes back to 2004, set the total amount of parking spaces for the shopping center. And the modification was well within that formula. So, yeah. So they're compliant from a regulatory standpoint. Whether that means, practically speaking, there's sufficient parking is another story. You know, in the middle of July or August at lunchtime, it may be a different story. But it's a 44-seat restaurant, and they had the amount of parking spaces both complied with the zoning code as well as what was allowed under the special permit. So,
If I understood correctly, Chipotle's going in new construction
yes, yeah, they're building the building.
along South Street.
Um,
South Street runs parallel with 28.
yeah, I think, is it called Charles though?
Charles Street
Yeah.
goes the other direction. It goes up the hill from the intersection here, up the hill.
Yeah.
Charles Street runs,
So-
and then you got South Street, which is running parallel with 28.
Sure.
Where
Okay.
the old pumpkin patch was.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, okay. So,
yeah,
it seems crazy to put up another building when you got a restaurant facility that's sitting there vacant.
yeah,
And Chipotle's coming in and building another restaurant across the same parking lot, and gonna put more pressure on parking as well over there.
Sure.
Why don't they use the existing restaurant, the place that we went to for pizza one time for lunch? You know, why don't they just convert it from a pizza place to a Mexican restaurant, and you got the building all built? But that's the developer,
yeah.
and he knows his business, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you get into the thing that, you know, what I mentioned earlier, planning is to some extent pitching, but to some extent catching, and really to a
Also,
large extent
the
catching.
Wicked business was sold by Josh, the owner.
Well, I mean,
So it
I
may
just
be,
know, I go by there, it's
I know,
vacant now.
it's still vacant
And you're
now,
talking about another building,
may not
using
be.
the same parking lot as the pizza place, it was a pizza place.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
there
a
is
lot
no
of
parking
times,
lot.
for
There is
whatever
no
reason,
parking
market
lot
forces
out.
are driving these decisions,
Yeah, I
and
guess there
The
is.
developer's money is involved in it.
Sure.
He's calling the shots.
Sure, yeah. So, any other questions, or?
Question that you mentioned, bike path.
Yep.
Where is the bike path that you make reference to?
So for that particular easement, it is where it's like right by 9 Shellback Way or 647 Falmouth Road, which is where this proposed specialty grocery store may be going in. So yeah, so that's actually what led to the discovery of the need to adopt the easement to make it in perpetuity versus 99 years. We were going over the paperwork on that, and that's when I discovered
If I
that, so.
understand correctly, there is a bike path
Yep.
currently now somewhere around the Shellback
Yeah, it's already there.
condo community.
Yeah, it's already paved. It's basically parallel to 28. It's real easy to not notice because I kind of had the same reaction. I was like, "There's a bike path there,"
Really?
and then I drove by real slow, and I was like, "Oh yeah, there it is." So
And
yeah,
it runs parallel to 28?
yes sir. Yeah.
Where does it go to?
That's an interesting question.
I didn't know there was a bike path.
Yeah.
Where is it?
It basically looks like a sidewalk without curbing. You know, it's indented in. There's maybe 2 to 3 feet of sod, and it's right there. So yeah.
I don't know if it's under your responsibility or DPU, but you take every major road in Mashpee, Breakneck North, Breakneck South, 28, 151, 28 towards Falmouth, 151, all have sidewalks. There's no sidewalk in the rotary east on 28. And you have several condo complexes there with like, almost 200 units, if not more, plus a retirement community, plus homes, plus people who live on Orchard Street, and there are no sidewalks at all on 28. Is there a reason for that? Do you know? Or is that DPU?
No, I don't know. It depends on the road though. But so to clarify, are you talking about the rotary by the Commons, or are you talking? Yeah. So that's actually because a big portion of that is Route 28, which is state responsibility. It's state owned. There has been talk, and the planning board did provide some comments on it regarding upgrading the rotary. It's a potential Mass DOT project, and they are looking into it presently. I haven't heard anything back from Mass DOT since we gave them their feedback. They were supposed to have some public hearings over the summertime. I haven't heard anything about that since then.
What I'm referring to is no sidewalks on 28.
Well, so part of the upgrading would be doing both a shared use path and a shared use path, which would include both biking lane and a sidewalk. So
Probably a good topic for Catherine, because Catherine's been in the middle of the planned in the future revision of the Mashpee Rotary.
Sure.
And that there is a significant plan out there. It's been around for
Yep.
a number of years, going through iterations of planning.
Yeah.
I've seen them back when I was involved with conservation in the town.
Yep.
Because there is conservation because of Mashpee River flowing through there. And that was, that was fun to see it. But now they'll go through another iteration and probably several more. And Catherine she's on point for that.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, my understanding is she has been heavily involved in that, and it's been something like 10 years in the making. It's a state project, but yeah, they get DPW feedback a lot. But the planning board did review some of those just plans to provide its own comments at a planning board meeting this past spring, and so yeah, shared use path and a sidewalk are among the components that they're considering. A couple other things that I think would be good as well as they're looking at. Both on both sides of the rotary, either heading towards Hyannis or coming from Hyannis, they're looking to cut basically make a double laned as you approach the rotary, which should help to alleviate some traffic. We'll see. Yeah.
Probably not.
I believe you said that with a straight face.
Almost a straight face. Almost a straight face. But yeah, I mean, traffic in that area is obviously a problem, and with all the construction that's happening, it's only going to get worse, and there's a huge question as to what can we do to alleviate it, because there's only so much road. So, yeah. But I mean, I've seen it back up easily a quarter of a mile coming from Hyannis to the rotary, and then recently, and recently backing up to the shopping center, heading over to Hyannis. Yeah. Yeah. It's a problem.
Sounds like a plan that will guarantee to increase the benefit to body shops and
to our healthcare facilities for all the car accidents.
It's an optimistic way of looking at it.
I'll tell you about going around all the rotaries in Ireland, where you have to drive on the left-hand side of the road.
Wrong way.
I was gonna say, everybody knows 28 should be a 4-lane highway. I mean, traffic it's heavy.
Yeah.
So, but to do that, you'd have to do eminent domain, and it would cost a fortune.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be extremely expensive, and of course, everybody that has property along there would be upset, seeing their property taken away. I mean, it would just be just very difficult.
Yeah.
Upset
I'm
that
sure
you
people
call
talk
it
about
scenery
it.
of the Cape.
Yeah, I mean, broadening roadways is no easy feat. That's for sure. I mean, go ahead and look at what they're planning on doing with the two bridges. I think the estimated costs there are $4.5 billion. I'd love to see how much of it have to do with taking the land in order to do the on and off ramps, and then not to mention the fact that you're taking people's property, which never goes over well with the owners. So, I mean, there's the cost of it, of buying it out and also going through the eminent domain litigation, but then there's, that's the economic cost, but then there's also the social and personal cost, which most people don't like to have their land taken, so.
Any comment from the planning department in regards to the special permit that expires in New Seabury momentarily?
Yeah, so it's something that, I'm going to have conversations with the building department on. New Seabury is technically a ZBA special permit. It dates back to 1964.
Right.
We are aware that it's going to expire in 2 years, and I mean, solving that problem, for lack of a better phrase, I mean, it's going to be a massive headache, but I think we'll find a way to do it. I think we've got a great team and a lot of smart people who know the history of the town. I think at a minimum, to be candid, and I've shared this is the first time I've shared it publicly, but I've shared it with Dave, our building commissioner, often. I don't think it's a problem we're going to solve in 2 years by the time it expires. I think the smartest move is to do some sort of intelligent extension to get more time to really think through a creative solution that will last. So we'll see what happens. But it's a ZBA special permit.
The good news is there's not a lot of developable space left.
Right.
There's 2,700 living units there now.
Right.
And there's not much space. I mean, they finally wedged in 8 or 12 little units off of Great Oak Road.
Right.
And the rest of that's all conservation land now controlled by the state.
Sure.
So chances are, there really won't be a lot of new development. But
Sure.
This is where,
But it's New Seabury. But then that still raises the question is from a compliance perspective moving forward, what do you do with the currently existing structures, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, so,
But know from experience
yeah,
that I'm gonna say that probably 90% of the living units that are there now, that have been built within the last 25 years, comply with town regulations. You know,
even though they're under the special permit?
even if they're in the special permit.
Yeah.
You know, that was a role that I played and still play to this day.
Oh, nice.
Oversee all new construction. And unless there is extenuating circumstances, they must comply with the town regulations.
Sure.
Setbacks from road sides and so forth.
Yep.
But there was some built way back in the 1960s where they were experimenting with California zero lot line construction.
Oh, interesting.
And there are probably 75 to 100 units
Yeah.
where if you sit in your pool, you got a wall here, and that's the exterior wall of the adjoining property.
Yeah,
And it comes right up to the zero property line.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so there are those that are in place, but that's grandfathered. They can be grandfathered, just,
Yeah, well,
people are living and buying them and spending several $100,000s to buy those units. They love them.
yeah,
You know, I don't know what the issue will be, but the special permit is a concern for New Seabury.
yeah.
They don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, so to that point, I mean, it could be, for those structures, they could just be considered pre-existing non-conforming structures if the special permit, but then they have to comply with that bylaw for any rebuilds, extensions, alterations, or raise and replace scenarios. So that may be one approach, it may be one approach, you know, but,
Modifications to the bylaws.
yeah, but it, you know, another approach may be finding a way to allow the special permit to move forward so that they still fall under it, you know, or maybe we create villages. You know, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. I think, you know, what we want to do is whatever is most beneficial to the property owners. You know, I mean, people have, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, so. Any other questions? No? All right, well, thank you guys so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
That sure is a lot going on. Good luck in keeping all of that straight, Brian. So thank you so much for coming by today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, do we have any other business? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
some of them.
Second?